Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place due to the outbreak of the coronavirus, this meeting of the Town of Berlin Board of Selectmen will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. The Town of Berlin will use best efforts to post an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's webpage, the town's YouTube channel, and approved minutes will be posted to mytowngovernment.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to attend the virtual meeting may attend via the Zoom webinar platform in one of two ways, with both audio and video access or by telephone audio only. Should any board member have technical difficulties and or lose access to the meeting will recess for a period of time to see whether access can be restored. If not, the meeting will be continued to another date agreed to by a majority of the board or adjourned until our next scheduled meeting. Before we turn to the next item on the agenda, please permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will invite each board member to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Board members and speakers on the agenda, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with each other, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself. Public comment portion of the agenda to the extent that our technical capabilities allow. Please comment. Public comment will be permitted during the public comment portion of this meeting as follows. Attendees' phones and other devices will be muted unless and until they raise their hand and are recognized by me to speak. If you don't know how to raise your hand and you are attending by video, you could raise your actual hand. I will do my best to call on attendees if appropriate. I will ask each member of the public who wishes to speak to identify themselves, and I will afford each speaker time to ask a question or make a brief comment. Those who have appointments with the board under a specific agenda item will be promoted from attendee to panelist only for that particular agenda item, then move back to attendee if they wish to stay for the rest of the meeting. So we will call the meeting to order at 7:06. And as I said, the meetings of the Board of Selectmen are generally recorded for transmission on both Berlin Cable Television Access Channel and YouTube. Your voice, image, and or telephone number may be recorded. The first thing on the agenda is the approval of the June 1st minutes. Mary, I apologize. I found the minutes. Don't know if I just missed them or what, but anyway. So do I hear a motion from the board to approve?
So moved.
And seconded.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Keefe, aye.
Wysocki, aye.
Stone eye.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Quick question. Did Victoria accept our offer, and where is she in the pre-employment process?
She has just, I've gotten her references. I'm now checking the references. And she's just beginning the pre-employment Corey and pre-employment medical process with Mary.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Margaret, you're kind of quiet tonight.
Oh, maybe my thing's too far away. How's that? I'm not usually very quiet, am I?
No, I mean, it's the volume. There's something that's not quite, it's not at the same.
I know, I just turned you up too, Margaret.
Did you? Okay, so maybe
Yeah,
I'm
so
just
something's not.
maybe I'm just being quiet. Okay, I'll try to be louder.
All right, motion passes on the minutes. Correspondence. you have any correspondence, Margaret?
There is no correspondence to report tonight. There is no correspondence to report tonight. Can you hear that?
Okay. Before I do general public comment, should I read the Zoom raise hand function,
That'd be a good idea.
the whole thing, or
Oh,
how about just,
Oh, you just
phone
did
call?
that.
No, the phone call.
all of
link.
these people have been here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
well,
think they.
I'm
yeah.
just going to let people know again that with phone calling with the landline, while in the meeting on a phone, dial *9 in the phone style pad to raise hand, and to lower hand, dial *9 again. I think everybody else has probably been here before. Okay, so general public comment. Stan, did you have a general public comment? Yes.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Stan.
Stan.
Hi, guys. I'm here with Denny as well.
Okay. Hi, Denny.
Hi.
Oh. Mr. Bartlett, you gotta like put a hand in the camera so we actually know that you're
I don't
there.
know where the camera is. I'm sitting there.
There he
we go.
is. All right.
So how do we start this? I sent you guys an email. Do we want to review that email? Do we want to just kind of talk about what was in the email? How would you guys like to proceed?
If you just want to give like an overall why you're here.
Okay.
From the email, if you'd like, whatever.
Okay. So the history behind this is that the land for the town highway barn, the current town highway barn, the new town highway barn, was sold by Marguerite Crackart to the town. And I believe that was in 2012, I think is when the property changed hands. And in speaking with Marguerite, who is, in case people aren't aware, Marguerite is Wendy, my wife's aunt, Russell, my father-in-law's sister, Marguerite Crackart. She sold the land. And so in speaking with her, and I actually, we were down to see her last April when we were visiting schools with my son. And she came out of the blue and asked me, is the stone up at the highway department commemorating our family? And I said, huh? And she said, yes, my understanding, there was supposed to be a stone commemorating the Howard family, because we not gave the land, but in a sense, the land, the land was the family land. So I came back and I spoke to Denny regarding this and asking him what his recollection was of it. And I would let you speak to that as other than he did tell me that was definitely his understanding. But
It's basically the same thing that's almost in the minutes from 2012. After I was able to secure the stone from the Bonazzoli family, and the Board of Selectmen wrote them a thank you note for donating it. And it was going to be used for the stone in front of the highway garage, but in 2012, there was not even a search committee or whatever. And to my recollection, and even Jim will kind of Spinney will kind of back me up, that we got the stone for the highway garage and put on it, and, thank you to the Crackart family for, they kind of gave us the land almost at the price.
so I guess what I don't know was, would the stone be in replace of that wooden sign? Was it intended to be the stone for the highway department and also have the name Howard on it? Or was that supposed to be something separate, or what's?
It was supposed to be the sign that now is wooden.
Okay, which makes sense because you said it's a 6-foot piece of granite.
Yeah, 6 by 6.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
6 feet?
6 feet by 6 feet. That stone's worth about $10,000.
Wow. And it's too bad that Dave isn't here. Well, I mean, he wasn't on the building committee either.
No. And I went round and round with Mr. Clemmer, and I'll keep my comments to myself.
Okay, because I was at every one of the construction meetings, and there was never any mention of it.
Right.
And that's was so when Stan wrote the email to us, I was just very surprised.
Well, most of it was with the, were you on the board then? No, I wasn't.
No, I wasn't on the board until the construction of the building started.
Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause this was with Tom and Judy Bowman and
Val Bradley,
So,
Oak Val.
Bradley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I guess my whole thing for bringing this up is, and as I've said in emails, I mean, Marguerite is 97 years old. It's her understanding that this was going to happen. I think it's Denny's understanding that this was going to happen. And I'd like to find a way to make this happen. So I figured we needed to start the process and get going on this and figure out what we can or can't do. And I understand the whole money situation, but wanted to get the board's feeling on, even if it's a smaller version, even if it's not the highway sign, even if it's just a memorial marker on the property. I don't know what your conversations were with Marguerite, Denny, if she really thought that it was going to be the sign, if she just really wanted a commemoration.
Well, it's basically going to say Berlin Highway Department. Whatever number they ever gave to the building. And I just thought it was going to have something on the bottom with help or from.
Right, because part of it is the language in the sense that
Yeah.
she didn't donate the land, so it's not really given by, but it was at substantially reduced market rates. So and provided by and in memory of, and certainly was in memory of her family.
Yeah.
And it would be
Is that
in memory of the Howard family or
Yeah,
the,
and see, Denny had thought it was Crackart, and that's a natural thing. I mean, Crackart's probably the name more in town now, but I mean, Howard was kind of the original name from the 1870s. And I think I had said at one point that Barry might be a person to speak to about this. He certainly knows the family history. And I think Wendy was going to join this as well. I don't know if she's on at our house, but
he is.
I see her there.
so, it's certainly the family history. It's the family homestead.
Do you want
And-
Wendy brought up, Chris? Do you want
Sure.
me to- Yeah, okay.
Even though she didn't have her hand raised. For
Yeah, she's a rebel. Try living with her.
We'll just drag her to the dark side.
I mean, since I was a kid, I can remember Fred Crackart driving his tractor up there almost daily during the summer, tending to his garden.
Yeah, and my sadness is that I never got to meet the man.
It's a Crackart history book.
No, and that I have read. I just did not get to meet the man.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi.
Jenny, where's the piece
So
of,
yeah, Howard
granite
is
now?
my,
What's she say?
Sorry.
Where's the piece of granite? There's
where is
one.
it now?
It best better be down to the highway garage or highway down to the landfill.
The transfer station.
At the
Transfer
dump?
station.
Yeah, at the
Best
dump.
better be,
Any idea where?
right where I left it should be.
That's nice.
Has
Okay.
anybody followed up with Pete or anybody about where this is?
With who?
Peter.
Well, with Pete or
Pete, at the
anybody
dump.
down at the transfer
Well,
station?
It's way out and back where the highway had all of their stuff.
Okay.
There's granite curb, there's a lot of stuff down there.
Okay. Because that's probably the first step would be making sure that's still back there.
Well, hang on and I'll find out.
I
If
mean,
you
'cause
want-
if it's not back there, then it's a
Huh?
different conversation. If it's not back there, then it's a different conversation.
So Wendy, did you have anything you wanted to add that Stan shared with us?
I was just gonna say Howard is the family name. My grandmother was a Howard. My grandfather came from Indiana and he brought the Crackart name. So the Crackart name has only been for 3 generations and the Howard name goes back from there.
Okay.
So my aunt, Marguerite, her mother was a Howard, her father was a Crackart, and she feels the Howard name is the one that she would like to
Turn 95
put
yesterday.
on the stone.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you're on the air here in a selectmen's meeting. Awesome. Hey. Okay, select women, select people.
Select
Hey, that big 6x6 piece of granite is still down at the dump, isn't it?
What, the big one you got for the sign?
Yes.
The last I know.
Okay.
All right.
So last time Jim knew, the rock for the sign is at the dump.
When's the last time you
Okay.
laid eyes on it?
Okay.
When was the last time you laid eyes on it?
Oh, I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
I know for a whole week.
All right. Well,
How long, probably?
how long do you think?
Months anyway, maybe
Oh.
last year.
Okay, so not years and years.
Yeah.
but less than a year.
I'd like to think so.
Okay.
All right. So it should be still at the dump.
All right. Thank you.
To my knowledge.
To the best of Jim's knowledge, if you can't hear him, it should still be at the dump.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jim.
Thank you, sir.
All righty.
I may call you again.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. So what, and the information you were looking for from the selectmen, Stan, was.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess from my standpoint and probably, and Wendy's, is what I'd like her input on this as well, is, I mean, I don't think Marguerite is expecting like a big giant to do and some sort of lot of fanfare. I think she really is just expecting the name Howard to appear on a stone commemorating the land. And so wording, that's the part I kind of wanted to get the select board's feelings on. I mean, especially if there was any history on, I only got the note, the meeting minutes last week before I had started this process. So without anything formally being in the meeting minutes about, there was clearly no vote from the select board saying, you know, we should say such and such on the sign, or this sign should be such and such. So I guess it's kind of feeling out the board now to think what can we do to make this, you know, to kind of in the spirit of how it was and how the land was acquired by the town. How do we, you know, how do we go forward with commemorating this the way it was intended to be commemorated?
And I think that the easiest way is to Berlin Highway Department or whatever number West Street it is, with thanks to the Howard family.
So in replacement of the wooden sign.
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know whether the board wants to weigh in or if they would prefer to think about it and perhaps talk about it at a future meeting again, or.
Well, I mean, there's going to be the elephant in the room. How's it going to be paid for? You know, right now, there's no town money that can be applied for it. And how much is it going to cost? I realize how much it's going to cost is how much that we want to say on it. So it's kind of hard to go forward with really,
Yeah, and I think that was
without
my
having a
point,
lot
that-
of information. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what if
And
we
also,
start with,
implementation too, because the sign that's already there, my understanding is that that was a relatively expensive sign too. So to just ditch the sign that we paid a couple $1,000s for, you know, doesn't maybe make sense. Maybe it's a.
Well, that was
A
because somebody
compromise.
didn't agree with me.
well, that's neither here nor there. That's
I
past
know.
history. So we need to think about
Right.
what we're doing forward. So
And
Yeah. I mean,
As
I'm
far
not
as
at all
put-
opposed to, you know, finding a way to go forward. It just seems like we may have to look at a compromise measure of some.
like I can't remember who I talked to, but I mean, I guess I talked to Mary. The highway guys could dig a little hole, put some cement in it, and then plant the granite on top of it.
Denny, why are you
Thank you.
invoking my name? What did I do?
No, not you, Margaret.
Denny told me the same thing. I was
Oh.
gonna say, I was just gonna say, you said those words to me.
Goodbye.
Put a little footing down underneath it and throw some cement on top of it and plant the stone on it and call it a good day.
I guess what I would say to the board is that I can, if nothing else, I could get an engraver out there to give us a quote on at least we can get to try to get a number, and I can maybe just come up with some basic language. We can either, as Denny says, we could say Berlin Highway Department with the number and the Howard family. We can, maybe that's probably the longest version, and so that would give us the highest quote because I assume we're going to pay per letter. And then if we need to scale it back from there, and it's just in memory of Howard or something, and it's not the highway sign, but it's another piece of signage that's on the property, but maybe it's not the address. I don't know, but we can at least start getting a price and figuring it out.
It might actually be a good idea if maybe Lisa and Peg and I went down and looked at the size of this.
Yeah,
We're going dump picking?
6 feet by 6 feet sounds
That's
really large.
That's big.
It is.
Well,
It's
so,
a very impressive piece of granite.
I bet it is, and there may be other things that we could. I mean, we could have a lot of memorial signs with a 6 by 6 by 6 foot piece of granite.
so,
Well,
Stan, here's
the other
a,
question is, did anything ever formally get sent to the family as far as a thank you? So, and if so, that might be what to the Bonazzoli for donating it. And that might, that might dictate what their expectation is for, having done this, that what the sign, what it was donated for.
Yeah, it wasn't clear in the email. It wasn't spelled out, as you and Denny are saying.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if there was any future communicate like that, because I think it said that a letter was to be written. Wasn't there a thank you letter written or to be written?
Yeah.
Well, it should have been back when I got the stone.
Right.
It was supposed to be sent to, his real name is Trino Bonazzoli. I called him
Yeah,
Gigi.
Yeah, there's a letter here dated November 19th, 2012 to Mr. Bonazzoli. But it really doesn't get into any detail here. It says, we'd like to thank you for the donation of the large slab of granite to the Berlin Highway Department for creating a sign at the location of our proposed new highway barn. But it doesn't give any detail.
We have Barry raising his hand.
Okay. Can you elevate?
Yep.
Yes, please.
Okay, Barry, your mic's
Hi.
open.
Okay. I'm gonna do this here.
Hi, Barry.
Excuse me while I do all the things to get straightened out here. Some time ago, I heard some mention of the idea of calling that Howard Lane or something like that. And you could literally use the big piece of stone to put, Howard Lane or something as simple. We've already got a sign for the building and with the address number on it, the West Street number on it. And you could, put the Howard family name on it in that fashion, like put Howard Lane on it or something, and put the stone in there, and it would be there. It would do the job.
But where do you think it could be located, Barry, to say hi? I mean, right down near the road? I mean, up by the building?
Down near West Street, yeah.
But
Well,
do we then have to create a town road called Howard Lane? That is.
No, it's just a term. You don't have to make it officially so.
Okay. Well, I speaking for Wendy, or if she could speak for herself, I think that sounds great to me. But I think that would certainly be, Marguerite would be thrilled with that. I think.
Wendy?
I would think so too. What I kind of think is I would like to take a look at the entrance and see if there's room on the other side of the driveway so that the sign with the address could stay where it is. Maybe this could be on the other side. of the driveway, see what's there, take a look at the stone, and then come up with some different ideas and get prices on that, and then come back and continue the conversation at that point. And also just run the ideas by Marguerite and make sure that it's kosher with her as well.
Everybody else is cutting budgets.
Do you want to, would you like to meet again with the board then, and if at a future meeting, whenever is?
I think
I'm sorry, my
if,
crying.
as long as there's nobody on the board who's actually going to, that is opposed to this idea. I don't want to spend time moving forward with this if people are opposed to it. So if the board is okay with us coming up with some ideas and getting prices on it, then I would like to move forward and come back with some suggestions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Lisa, how about you?
Oh, I'm fine with the general idea. I liked sort of Barry's where he was going with it. Like I said, I think 6 by 6 feet is really large, so I would think something smaller than that would make sense. But I have no opposition if that was the intent. Especially, I mean, there was a promise made, so the town has to keep it in some form.
Okay, Peg?
Should we maybe get the stone brought from the transfer station to the highway? I mean, at least brought over to the property, so we can
Look, see at it.
take a peek at it. And
Have you seen this stone, Stan?
I actually haven't. I did not know that that it was out back. I don't even know where that section of the transfer station is.
So you might want to go to the highway barn first to see what location,
Right.
and then to go see the stone and see
Right.
the stone.
And it sounds quite heavy.
Well, yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that a 6 by 6 piece of granite is not. I'm not going to put it in the back of my Matrix and bring it over my car. Yeah. So or Wendy's minivan for that matter.
They can pick it up with the forks with the loader and put it in the back of one of the 1-tons and bring it up there. I mean, it's not rocket science.
Okay. Peg, did you have anything to add?
No, if Wendy wants to go picking through the dump, I'm all for her to go picking through the dump and then come up with what she thinks is best.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds
All right.
like a plan.
All right. Well, thank you for starting the process. I appreciate it.
No problem. And let us know when you'd like to schedule the next meeting with us.
All right. I certainly will. You know, I'm not shy about it.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Denny. Bye, Wendy.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
See you
All right.
shortly.
I know that this is general public comment. I do not see any other signs at this time. So we'll move on to our appointment with our fire and EMS chief, Chief Clark.
There he is. On mute.
Hi, Chief Clark.
Good evening, how are you?
Good.
How's everybody tonight? Nice to see everybody.
Good.
You
Nice
too.
to see you too, Chief.
Same. Tonight we'll talk quickly about the responses in the month of May. Very luckily that we didn't have any structure fires. That's always a good thing. I always it puts a smile on my face when I know there's none. On the fire-related calls, we had 7. That would be some commercial alarm investigations, and there was a smattering of residential and commercial alarms in those. EMS responses, we're starting to see the increase with the more activity on the street. Since some of we're getting into the second phase and so forth. So we've had 24 EMS responses last month. The motor vehicle accidents are coming back. There was 5. None too serious. There was one that was on its side that the occupant had to be extricated, but injuries were minor and she was transported. There was 24 public service type calls where people called to help them out in one way or another, and they instantly respond out to take care of that. And there was one miscellaneous call that is, I actually couldn't tell what it was the way it was written, so it's a miscellaneous one. There's one event, a notable event I'd like to share with you, that back on Saturday on May 9th, it was a Saturday morning, they responded out to Mount Pisgah with firefighter EMT Mike Wheeler in charge. They had a injured hiker, lower leg injury, not too serious. And they had to use the Latin longs on the cell phones to locate her, which they did very promptly. They get in, made contact, extricated her from the woods in the Kubota tractor. So that's seen a lot of use this year already, I think more than it has the rest of the time it's been here. And it was only 35 minutes from the time the call was received to the lady was contacted with, transported, treated, and put in the ambulance to go to the hospital. So the guys did a really good job that morning. It was early on a Saturday. The call went out, they went and did it. And I was really proud of the way that they handled it. And they did an excellent job. And like an old chief once told me, you always rate your department by how they react and act in your when you're not there. So they did really well on their own. I'm very proud of them. And the guys and the gals, I can't just say guys, did a great job.
Excellent.
Yeah. Is there anybody that has any questions?
Lisa, Peg? No.
Hang on,
Yeah,
going
I
through the
can't-
reports.
I'm waiting.
You can go on.
All right. Hey, so Chief, on the fire marshal's report, there is a line about, oh, where'd you go? New houses. Lost it. Something like that. So when the fire marshal goes, new addresses, there you go. So when the fire marshal goes out to talk to these folks, is he talking to them about the numbering and how it needs to be visible and reflective, you know, something that we've been kicking around for months? Is that a whole part of the package?
On any new inspections that they do, that's a very critical part of the package. Okay, I think you hit most of them. Contrast, a minimum of 5 inches high.
Yep.
And sometimes, in my experience, some people will buy a really, really nice brass number, but it doesn't contrast with the siding color, and it doesn't really show up good. But it's down to, you have to have one on the building, and if the one on the building is not seen from the roadway, you have to have one on the edge of the street. A mailbox with a number on it is sufficient. Sometimes they put a nice sign. I've seen some really nice ones that are down on rocks and carved into the rock, but as soon as it snows or you plow your driveway, you lose it. So you got to kind of like keep that in that mind when people do that. Yeah, but that's an important part of all the inspections is the street numbers. And I know there's been lengthy conversation here about that. And it's kind of the older ones that don't get a lot of attention from the inspectors that I see those even in my travels around town. And we just got to keep working with people. And I think, Peg, you bring it up a lot and remind people. I think that's how you got to do it. You know, remind them. And I can only share my personal defeats that I've had that have been because there's been no house numbers, and it's like it's not fun and it's not pretty. So it's like I'm a big fan. I'm with you 100% when I hear you talk about it, and it makes me smile because it's like I hounded that people for years, and it was like it's like, oh, Peg's carrying the flag now. So.
Well, I mean, just even just on, you know, daily drives to get out of the house, and I go down Crosby Road, and I know everyone who lives on Crosby Road. I think there's like one sign, one number that I could find if I had to like ever point you guys to get there. So just curious. And then on all the inspections that are happening, is the training ongoing so that there are other people who can go in and do all the inspections and prep for when, you know, apartments start to take off and buildings start to go off in town?
Currently, no, to answer your question, because the academy's been closed.
Yep.
But they start up with some of their drill yard running the drills for their classes later this month. So we've been watching that really closely. We got names of 2 people in the 2 career personnel to be able to pick that up. And they both have the basic fire prevention, but we need to get them into sprinklers, into fire alarm system development, plan review, those kind of things. And the academy has just been shut down since the beginning of the COVID thing. So we haven't been
there's-
able to aggressively move them in there to gain that experience.
So is there any on-the-job training, any standard operating procedures, job aids that have been written that if an inspection is being done, there's 2 or 3 people standing behind the fire marshal with a paper in their hand going, check, 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 that type?
Some of them on the ones where on the apartments at Riverbridge, no, because they've kept them out of there because of the COVID-19.
Yep.
And we're limited that really to who just needs to be there. So as soon as this clears, we'll be running with that plan. We need to get that done. I'm with you 100%. And it's just like, we just need to get some more light at the end of the tunnel, and then we'll run with that ball more.
Okay,
Good question. Thank you.
anytime. That's all I have, Chris. Do.
She's tough, Chris.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So no more questions? Oh,
I see.
Margaret. Oh, unmute yourself. No.
Still on mute.
I guess I muted
Issues.
myself.
Yeah,
Chief, I wanted to bring to the board's attention for review and possible execution tonight, Chief's voluntary wage freeze under his contract for FY21. I know I'm extremely grateful to the chief for his willingness to do this, and he can speak to it. I'm just introducing it, that's all.
Margaret, you're doing really well. Keep going.
Oh, no.
No, I just part of the team. So it's like, yep.
So anyway, we as contracted employees, and I know that Chief Galvin has worked on his, and he'll be attending the board's meeting next week. So we as the town's 3 contract employees, talked about this, and we understand the sacrifices that our non-union employees have made in FY21 with wage freezes, and I thank both chiefs for their consideration, and Chief Clark coming forth tonight with the proposal on freezing his wages at FY20 for FY21. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Margaret.
Chief. If I had a hat, I'd tip it off to you. Appreciate it.
No, you don't have to do that.
So
Thank-
if the board and chief find this acceptable, I would ask for a board's vote on this once chief confirms it's acceptable to him.
Okay. Do you want to confirm it's acceptable this evening, Chief?
Yeah, it was good to be. I reviewed that, but we went on a couple of calls late in the afternoon there, so I didn't get back in touch with Margaret before didn't get done till almost 5. So it was like, but I'm in agreement with the paperwork that Margaret showed me, and I to the best of my knowledge, it will be finalized tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
And so seconded. Thank you again, Chief. Means a lot.
You're
Right
welcome.
here.
Thank you.
It does.
Oh, wait a minute. Where is it? Right here. There you go. Well, I'm trying to find my heart. I've been accused of not having one. So yeah, let's go this way. There you go.
All right, so we'll take a vote. Keith, aye.
Waisaki, aye.
Don't I?
And I do thank you and Margaret and Chief Galvin for, working as a team and doing this for the town.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming tonight too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, take care, ladies.
Have a great night.
Yep.
Okay, our next appointment is with the Historical Commission. And we're going to discuss the Bullard House rehabilitation, vision, and any other information that we can gather from the commission. Is everybody elevated?
looks like they are, except we have a few people on mute, which I think I can unmute them. I think. Having trouble with Elaine. Mary, I don't know if you're able to unmute Elaine.
Well, I've asked to unmute her and there controls that. Elaine, turn it the TV way, hon. Let's see, unmute.
We've got her on video, so she's.
Elaine, just go like, steer your phone the long way. That'll do it.
Yay. All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And we had a lot of information in our packets about the Bullard House. It was very appreciative. It was very informative, the historical part of it, Barry. I don't know if Margaret, do you want to bring us?
Yes, I put all those materials into the board's folder. So you have, Barry, so you know the board and historical commission members, the board has this application for FY17 community preservation mitigation funding. That's in the agenda folder packet. The 3 letters from the building, past 3 building inspectors are in the packet, as are references to the 2016 annual town meeting warrant article and vote under the article. And then finally, I've also included the RFQ that Elaine has put together with a proposal to tackle the structural, I think it's the structural beams. I'm sure that Historical Commission could speak to that. But I've loaded the board up with information from the Historical Commission.
At the time that we made that proposal, we had 3 main elements of the work to be done with that funding. One was railings for the handicap ramp that's inside the building. Those have been made and installed. Another was to do the kitchen and bathroom, the handicap restroom, and a partial kitchen facility. And the third was to do work on the sill across the front of the house, which was a structural matter. In discussing a variety of things and going through the building with the building inspector and so on, the commission took the building inspector's letter and our own discussions, and we determined that we'd like to put the sill work and any other structural work on the front burner, and as basic and important. And Elaine prepared that proposal and has been discussing it with Margaret. Elaine, do you want to address that?
It speaks for itself. I mean, we have to move forward. I mean, how many more years are we going to wait?
Right. Yeah. And the structural work, this would give us a line on anything that we may not yet have noticed in regard to structural work. A lot of this we've known about, but at the same time, that's put us on the front burner. What we'd like to do is use the funding or a portion of the funding that's available now to get this structural survey done. And that would include actually opening up some parts of the walls, outside walls and so on, so that sills and such can be evaluated properly. So really the question is, does the board want to support that revised allocation of the funds that are at extent now? And then once we have that report, we'll be able to then determine how to best move forward from that.
I would ask Margaret, or the commission, I guess, will this kind of study actually be looking at the Bullard House as a whole?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because, thank you, Elaine. And yes, through the chair, that's actually an important piece, because Elaine, June, and I were all at the same Mass Historical Commission Preservation Funding Workshop. I want to say recently, it doesn't seem like recently, but where they did talk about the fact that an architectural study is absolutely needed in order to qualify for the grant funding, because it has to be submitted as part of the grant application. And Richard's letter from April of 2020 actually supports that, where he says this project could benefit from some professional guidance, such as an architect design professional to evaluate the building for what is needed for repairs and code compliance, create plans and specifications, and do a cost analysis. And then he added, with this in place, there may be preservation grants available to help finance the project. So I think he kind of hit the nail on the head too.
Yeah. And the warrant article was for, is that the one for 55,200?
Yes.
Okay.
We've spent about 1,000 of that.
Okay. I think is it too late to put this on this town meeting warrant, I suppose?
For repurposing the funds?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be too late for repurposing the funds. However, I think what Elaine has proposed, Elaine, would you like to just go over this this draft RFP really quick? I was my understanding that the work that's proposed in here would actually qualify under the vote already taken by town meeting. Yes?
Right, that's the impression we were under.
Because the vote was to approve $55,200 from the Highland Commons cultural funds to be expended under the direction of the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of renovation work for the Bullard House. And so that's the language of the actual proceedings.
That sounds,
The more detailed thing was in our proposal and was approved by the board.
okay.
But I would say, based on the way that the vote of the town, that the board would have some latitude in that regard.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, my assumption was that Barry wouldn't have proposed this unless it was okay, given that he's our expert in that area.
Yes. Unless he was planning on
Unless-
waiting a while. I don't know. Is there any questions for the commission from the board?
So Barry or Elaine, could you just summarize the steps as to what's going to be done in cost? Because I know we've kind of, done this talking about the Bullard House. So it'd be nice to, just hear you say, we're going to do this by X, we need this by this date, this is going to cost X by this date. So just to give an outline of it would be great.
That's what we're doing. That's why we want the survey. That will spell it all out.
So you're doing, because I'm just trying to go through all the notes and was trying to put them in timelines together. So your first stop along the journey is what?
A complete structural survey.
All right.
And that's
And
the
go ahead.
RFQ. That's what the request for the quote is for.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can set the priorities
Okay.
based on the recommendation.
So you need to put an RFQ out there?
Yes.
Margaret shaking her head. Okay. Do you have a timeline as to when you'll draft this and get this out the door?
It's already drafted. I think it could go the way it is.
Yes. The goal here is that the cost of the structural survey would be less than $10,000 in order to fit under the threshold under Chapter 149, building contracting for building construction. So hopefully it'll come in under $10,000.
So because if it's over 10, Margaret, then we need to get what, at least 3?
Oh, it gets much more complicated. You have to put advertisements in combis. You have to do prevailing wage. You have to do all kinds of fun stuff. So let's hope that we can get this for under 10,000.
But we would be hopeful that the results of this survey would then enable us to make the kind of a plan you're talking about, Peg, in terms of, at least in terms of the building structure.
Hey.
I think you'd have more trouble or an easier time getting professionals in there too if you had the survey so that they could see what the professionals actually felt was needed. I think that would be really helpful.
Elaine, do you have a time frame when you want everything back from? Or is it
I-
just,
I think we initially, well, this was written some time back, so, Margaret, what is that, about a month?
I think a month would be fine.
Yeah, I think it's doable if they're not tied up with other work.
The commission has basically put Elaine in charge of this, working with Margaret, because Margaret's got the procurement experience, and that to move ahead with it as expeditiously as possible.
Okay, sounds like a plan. You need a vote from us, Margaret?
I don't know. I don't. Maybe a consensus at least of support to move in this direction would be great, or a vote would be fine too. And then we can proceed.
Okay. Do I hear a motion, or at least are we in agreement? I completely support this.
Yeah, I
Joan,
think
did you want to say something about it?
I just wanted to ask that the RFQ goes out there. Do we direct it to someone in particular?
Yes, it goes to Margaret. Oh, you mean to the person?
To the actual people that could conduct the survey?
Yes,
Yes.
it's set up that way right now.
Yes.
So what is that mechanism?
To send it out, it should be sent out to, as a best business practice, it should be sent out to any the person that I have whose name is on here is a professional in historic preservation and structural integrity and things. So anybody who would actually qualify to do that work, we'd want to send it to, just to invite them to quote on it.
Would that go in the state register?
The survey?
Yeah.
That I can't answer. I can't answer whether the survey would go in the state register. We'd certainly use it.
Okay, Peg, do I hear, do you have any comments?
no, I mean, I think it's a good plan to get this moving and off the ground. As we all know, the Bullet House is one of the first things that you see as you drive through the center of town. So we definitely want it to be the building that it is and portray the history of the town. So if the first step is to get a committee together to give us an idea of what's going on, then let's move forward, and there's money for it. Let's go.
Okay. Then I think you have your agreement from the board, Margaret.
Hey, all right, Elaine, let's do this. I
Okay.
apologize for the delay. Poor Elaine, this first came to me right when COVID hit. And so.
Of course it did.
So we'll get to it now.
Great.
It's messed us up in regard to meetings and everything else.
Yeah.
We've had one Zoom meeting. We've got another one planned later this month. One other matter that I'd like to just discuss with the board a little bit is we have been wanting and needing additional storage space for the collection. Even when we get moved into the new building, we still have additional collection material. We need to reduce the amount of it that's in the old house right now in order that some of this work can be done that we're talking about. And we've looked time and again at the idea of using space on the second floor of the Red Fire Station on West Street. But I can't figure out how we actually can move toward getting permission to do that. So I'd like some direction about how should we proceed in order to get the possibility of some permission for us to store more of our material or provide a space on the second floor there that might be available to us, or some other town building that's appropriate.
So I guess I would give the suggestion that you talk with Margaret about what it is you need to store. And once that's figured out, then I guess she could bring that back to us.
Yeah,
Margaret?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, what I would suggest is, not that you have to inventory everything, but I guess we'd at least need to know what you're looking to store temporarily versus what you're looking to store permanently. And that would help guide our decision. Well, I mean, it would help guide us as far as, determining appropriate storage space and how much we'd actually need in addition to what we're already using.
Okay. Does that sound like a plan, Barry?
We'll discuss it with Margaret, see where we get to. Sure.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Another question is whether the current spending freeze will have any effect on our ability to do the HVAC materials for the curatorial building.
My understanding, I know June's out there through the chair. My understanding, and I know June's out there, is that is money, that is a fund or an account that needs to be closed out sooner rather than later. So I'm going to have to, let me check with June and see if we can take care of that once and for all and get that done.
Okay. We've run into some difficulty with it in that this Assabet school has been closed this spring. So
Right.
we're looking into alternate ways to get the installation done. And whether we've got other money we can use someplace to get that accomplished. So we're working on that, but just to know whether we would have any delay if we decide to be able to move forward. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I believe we're going to move on to our next appointment, which is with the town accountant, and talking about the 1/12 budget plan.
Chris, before we go and, they all left. Oh, no, they're back in the audience. Could you just, maybe if you could bring June, I think did Barry go? I guess I'm just looking for what do they see as the vision for the Bullard House for the town? Is it going to be, stop laughing, M2.
I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing.
But no, just,
right.
is it a museum? Is it open to the public? Is there for function halls? I guess that might help give me a little bit more background as to what we want the Bullard House to be.
Okay, can I answer that? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Museum. It's not intended as a gathering place of significant numbers of people. If we're going to have a gathering of significant people, we'd use the town hall next door. But the Bullard House is a place to do exhibits, possibly period room, exhibits about different aspects of the town's history. At times, I mean, it would be open to the public. Much of the time, a limited amount, except for special occasions and by appointment. But I mean, we'd have probably some open hours every week, but we know better than to think you open it a whole bunch of hours, because in a small place like this, you're not going to get much traffic week to week, day to day. But we would have, and changing exhibits over a period of time as well. And as we can get the decoration done in rooms inside, we'll be able to have more exhibits at one time.
So rather than having the collection be displayed down in the basement of the town offices where it is now, you would do that over there?
Well, we'd actually have things on display. I mean, right now it's in storage.
Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, I know right now you open it up, bring people down in the basement and show them things down there, and the Bullard House would take over that role.
It would take over the role in terms of being able to have things out for people to see. Not everything all the time, but exhibits of various subjects and various periods and things like that.
And do you have that vision? The commission have that vision as a document?
Yes, if you'll recall, when we went through the Bullard House that time as a group, we gave you the preservation plan for the building, and the preservation plan both talked about some of the structural and various other things to be fixed, but it also addresses some possible uses and the kinds of things that might be displayed in some of the rooms.
Okay.
Poor June Miller has her hand up. She's waving like I was.
You know, I didn't know whether to call on June or Elaine also wanted to speak.
I just want to say that it's more, the use of the Bullet House is more than just exhibits. There can be programming there too, not large groups, of course,
Yeah.
but smaller groups so that it functions as an educational facility.
Yeah.
And school visits.
Right.
Okay. Okay, Elaine, did you have something else to add?
No, June covered it.
Oh, okay. All right, well, thank you. Does that answer your question, Peg?
I have one more. I am the queen of questions. Did we ever, and I'm trying to go through the docs now, so that's why I kind of keep looking off to the side while everyone's talking. Did we ever get an RFP for the kitchen and the bathroom? And maybe I'm just not seeing it, or is it outdated?
We had one a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, but that one didn't make it through, and we've never gotten a revision of that done since.
It
But
was posted.
decided to proceed instead with the priority of the structural issues first.
We've also scaled back the kitchen.
We have scaled back the kitchen somewhat, yes.
So you'd really just need a smaller kitchen if it's not meant as a gathering place than just as, you know, a place to come visit, then you really don't need an overly large kitchen. Because I can't imagine that you'd want someone walking through with snacks and water
No.
or drink in their hand.
No, but that doesn't mean you might not have some light refreshments served in an area at times and things like
No.
that.
Agreed.
Okay. Are we good, Peg?
Yes, quick, hurry up and let them go before Peg finds more questions. Well, they'll be back, so I'm not worried. I'll just write them down.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
You can also give them a call. I mean, June and Barry and Elaine are all, I'm sure, available to answer
Oh,
a
absolutely.
multitude of questions. Just give them a call.
Yeah. And hi, June.
It's June too.
Hello, everybody.
You're here to talk about the 1/12 budget plan?
Oh, I am just going to dazzle you with numbers. Yes, that's why I'm here.
All right.
All
June,
right.
would you like me to show them?
Sure, if you wish.
Okay, just tell me where to go on that very large spreadsheet you put together here.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it's going to actually fit.
Here's the
Oh,
here's the
actually-
bottom. Here's the
Oh.
bottom.
Quite a
line.
bit of it. Can we go over one?
This.
Nope, the other way.
That
That way.
Got it? This
There you
way?
go. Yep, that's good.
Okay.
Right there. Go up to the top, please.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, there you go.
All right. So pretty much what you're looking at here is we're doing this as cautionary measure. We really hope that I, for one, really hopes that town meeting goes through as scheduled. But if for whatever reason it should get postponed, we need to have a budget in place for July 1 so that everybody can continue working, so that business goes on as usual. Because technically, if we don't have a budget, then everything stops. Nothing can be incurred, nothing can be spent, no payroll or anything like that. So the state has implemented a new procedure for us. For the 30 years that I've been here, I've never had to do this, so this is very new to me. We are gonna, until we have a town meeting, we have to ask month by month to have them approve a budget for us. So like I said, this is just preventative. We had asked all the departments and committees and boards to put together budgets on what they think they're gonna need for the month of July for payroll and also for expenses. We had a June 1st deadline. There was a few that we had after the fact, so there is an adjustment here in the original spreadsheet that was sent to you. Again, this is just estimates, and the information here is based on the best information that we could gather at the time. I kind of did a cutoff of last Friday. I've made a couple of tweaks just because they were pretty important stuff. So I don't know if you all had a chance to take a look at this, but pretty much all of the information that is here is all based on the Finance Committee and yourselves approved budget. So there should be no extras going into this that is not going to be covered in the regular proposed budgets. So all of the salaries, all of the wages are all done as level funded for fiscal year 20, just as you see as Margaret's put into the proposed budgets. So it was pretty much just level funded salaries and wages times the number of days that are in the month so that we could cover payrolls. The expenses are all based on mostly contractual items or items that really need to be purchased or spent to continue operations here in the town. And you'll also see a couple of items that include the revolving funds for 1870 because payroll is actually paid out of the revolving. So we're going to put that in. And also the inspectors offset receipts because that's how they're paid. And transfer station, and there's a last minute change to the school assessments because the information that I have is a little contradicting, but the Department of Education is saying that even though the school will be getting their budgets based on a 1/12 budget, we have to still go by the regional agreements as far as actual payments go. So when we get there, you'll see that I did it based on the way that we normally pay historically and per our agreement with them. So that's just quickly what you're looking at. I didn't know if you, like I said, had a chance to take a look at it and had any types of questions on it or comments.
Peg or Lisa, comments, questions?
I mean, this is basically the budget that we've already approved for town meeting.
Pretty much just taken out for just one single month for the month of July. You are going to see a couple of the items here that are over a per se 1/12 budget. It's based on things like assessments or insurances or like I said, the regional agreements are off a little bit more than 1/12. They call it a 1/12 budget, but they're actually doing it just a monthly budget. And we have checked to see if it was okay for us to do things like I said, the assessments, things like that.
So then June, our total July budget is, I'm just gonna round, 2.3 million. Right there, yeah, okay.
Yep, approximately.
Approximately, we like that. We like you accountings. Well, approximately.
Well, that's not normally how this accountant works.
I
It's
know,
usually by
I know.
penny, but yeah, we did a rounding. I did a lot of rounding on this so that we wouldn't have to be doing pennies.
As you said, hopefully we won't have to use this.
I am so hoping we don't have to do this, but I figured if we did not do this, we did not do it properly, then for whatever reason.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
I totally get it.
So I'm laughing with Margaret saying, I really hope I can look back and go, yep, I just wasted a couple of days worth of work, but this is the one time I'm willing to say that.
So then,
as a safety net, right?
So,
That's right.
So June and Margaret, if we go on a 1/12 budget, then how often do we have to? Is it
Every single month.
So the beginning of every month, you're going to come back and smile, and
Actually, I'm going to be coming back probably around June.
she'll be
15th.
smiling. Okay, for July.
So smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we would probably have to go back and do it probably around July 15th. Have everybody get us the information again and apply
have
the
the board
following
vote it?
week. Because again, we have to have you all vote for it and then submit it in. And every single city and town who doesn't have a town meeting is doing the same thing.
That's right.
So we're trying to just do it proactively and try to get it done and in, so we're all set here and not waiting for the state to do a final approval.
Right.
So it would have to be done monthly until we have town meeting. And just to throw it out there in case we do have to do this, these amounts we will not have to adjust, as far as my understanding. We won't have to adjust the actual town meeting approvals, because we will still have to do the approvals, and this would just be part of the whole package.
Yeah.
So this is not in addition to or in replacement of. This is hopefully just in case of.
Well, I
So
can
do you,
understand why you don't want to do this. You want to do the budget.
Oh, yes,
You can
absolutely.
see why.
Yes.
see, June, you know what? And you laughed at me when I said, as long as my checkbook comes within $10 of what the bank says, I'm okay with it. So, you know. La, 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 la.
Yeah.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too.
So, motion to
Yes.
approve.
So one more quick question. So this 2.3 million, June, you expect that to be ish every month, or you see some fluctuation?
No, because if you look right here up at line on the thing of, what is it, 138, Worcester Regional Retirement, that's a one-shot deal.
Okay. Oh, all
So
right.
that's the whole assessment, so we can take the discount, even though Dennis brought in paperwork now that says we could possibly pay it in monthly installments, but the paperwork isn't totally clear that we can take the discount.
So you'd be,
So
go ahead.
I'm putting it in all in one pop, so that way they were paying it, we're taking the discount, and that will be the only time that's asked for, if we should have to go to an August or September.
So then
And
with,
also the same with the insurances, like the property and liability and the police and fire and workers' comp, those there will either pay in July or in August as a one lump sum. So that way there we take discounts and things too.
all right. So you're looking at potentially going forward after July, like 1.6-ish?
Probably, or
Okay.
maybe a little less.
Okay. All right.
Well, actually, it's going to flip, because the school's only like every other month we pay that for the assessments for the regional school system. And then Assabets will actually make a payment in August. So each one is a
Okay.
little different, but yeah, you're not going to see it go over that 14 million there.
Okay.
Coming in.
All right, because remember, in Margaret and June, we trust. No pressure, ladies, just saying. Okay.
We're trying.
We trust that town meeting will vote an annual FY21 budget.
Yes,
That's what we
are.
This is quite the process. This isn't just, June whips up the budget and it comes to the board for the approval of the 1 month expenditure plan. This is, every department's going to have to run this exercise every single month.
Every department did a great job. We had little tiny issues and problems, but every department really came out and actually did a pretty good job on most of their items. So,
Yeah, when Margaret told me that we had to do this every single month, because with the schools, they just vote a 1/12 budget and they're done with it.
Yeah.
It's not the same for municipalities.
No.
All right.
All right.
We have a motion on the floor.
And I'll second it now that my questions are answered. Thank you, June. I very much appreciate it. And Margaret, as always.
June, thank you for all your work on this. This was a ton of work.
well, thank you for your help.
Okay. We're ready to take a vote then. Keefe, aye.
Wysocki, aye.
Stone Eye.
Okay, motion passes.
There
Great.
will be a certification that has to be filed with the state on this. So I'll go through Chris or whoever it is that needs to file that certification.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you very much.
Thank you, June.
Bye, June. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the town administrator report.
Okay, I'll try to keep it quick. The first thing I want to note tonight, I want to give messages from the town clerk. So I report on messages from the town clerk. Per the town clerk, at this point in time, we are still under the governor's order for social distancing. Since a few weeks are needed to prepare for any election, the Board of Selectmen took this step of delaying both the annual town meeting and the annual town election, with my encouragement to try to protect the right to vote and its election workers. We don't know the future, but we could be using this procedure for the September 1 state primary and the November 3rd state election. Obtaining an absentee ballot application on the town's website, fill it out, sign, and return by email to townclerk@townofberlin.com, or utilize the drop box at the town offices, 23 Linden Street, or return it by mail. Absentee ballots need about a week to 10 days to go through the U.S. postal system, so please allow yourselves time. June 23rd is the last day to request an absentee ballot unless you've been hospitalized. Then the time limit extends to June 29th, but all ballots must be at the election by 4:00 p.m. Any comments can be directed to the town clerk, preferably by email. And the town clerk also wanted to announce that she has been contacted by Berlin resident Linda Yates, who has announced her write-in candidacy for the library trustees. And if she gets any more feedback or interest from write-in candidates, we'll be sure to pass that along. The second thing I have is a recommendation included in my town administrator report that Lisa Betcher-Smith begin her duties as 1870 Town Hall Manager on effective June 15th, 2020. She has already had her pre-employment query done and she's completed her pre-employment medical. But as you know, the hire date has been put on hold because of COVID. I actually had a call from someone last week who has run programs and wants to continue running programs at the 1870, both small and large. And so she's definitely interested in continuing. So allowing Lisa to start on June 15th will give her a couple of weeks to get her feet wet, learn the town's protocols, learn her various responsibilities, meet her fellow employees and others, and begin marketing the building. So I ask that the board support the start date of Monday, June 15th as Lisa's start date. Any questions or concerns?
Do I hear a motion to support?
So moved.
And seconded.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Just thank her for her patience in waiting, please.
The board voted to offer the position to Lisa on March 30th. March 30th. So yeah, she's been very patient and I will convey that, Lisa.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. Keefe, aye.
Osaki, aye.
Stone eye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the HR compensation and class study and personnel policy and procedure updates. I've also attached to my report tonight an outline of the consultant's work to date and a Gantt chart showing the future dates for deliverables on the project. The Gantt chart's going to come up a little later in this evening's meeting when we talk about the Council on Aging Director and my recommendation for the starting wage. For everyone's information, the town held a pre-town meeting and budget forum last Thursday evening to review the annual town meeting warrant articles and the Finance Committee's FY21 recommended revised budget. The forum was taped and people can view the forum by going to the town website and under news, click send your questions in now regarding the 2020 annual town meeting, and then clicking on the YouTube video link. I think by watching the forum, a lot of questions that people might have will be able to be answered by viewing the video. If people can click on that same link to go to the Finance Committee's recommended revised budget. So that would also be additional information people might want to see. And the C3 Industries, the proponent for a recreational marijuana establishment at 64 Banner Road, is going to be holding a community outreach meeting virtually on Tuesday, June 16th at 6:30 p.m. All the information and the meeting notice are on the town's website. Again, under news, click on the link to go to the meeting notice. And there is an opportunity, an email address, that people could send advanced questions to that company. Tonight, the board will be voting on whether to formally set the date for the annual town meeting and a potential rain date. This Wednesday, we have an ATM logistics working group that's going to be assembled to coordinate planning and assignments to put together that outdoor town meeting at Berlin Memorial School. I wanted to touch on the Maplewood Farm settlement and licensed site professional. There is a settlement agreement with Maplewood Farm in Berlin. I've been doing a little research on this and plan to do a lot more after town meeting, but I wanted to give an update that the vendor responsible for importing soil is now required to have loads of material tested for, I'm going to say PFAS, it's chemical substances in those loads before they're delivered, or they must document why testing for PFAS was not done. And again, that has to be done before the material is accepted for reuse, and this is per DEP's requirements. And that's it for now.
Well, that was very short.
It was, I numbered items and skipped over a lot. So you can see my talent, you can see my TA report on the website.
Yes, but we need to tell people that. Go to the website and read the whole report. All right, we're going to move on to old business. The status of the annual town meeting to be held at this point at Berlin Memorial School, June 22nd at 7:30. And we are talking tonight about a rain date of June 24th at 7:30, if necessary. Is there anything you want to add, Margaret?
No, I would ask for the board's consideration of taking these votes so we can really begin planning for town meeting and a possible rain date in earnest this week.
Okay, questions, comments from the board?
I did attend the thing on Wednesday. I don't know if you want me to send over the information from that, but it sounded like we could make this happen. I was comfortable with us making this happen.
The webinar?
Yes.
Oh,
that's
okay.
good.
I never got any information. Margaret, you were going to send it to me, weren't you?
I was gonna send you the video, but they still, as of yesterday, hadn't posted.
No, it came in today.
Oh, that's why. I checked yesterday.
So do you have it, or do you want me to send that stuff over?
Could you send it, please?
I can. Yep.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
So
Excellent.
that was helpful?
It just from the perspective of seeing, yeah, we can pull this off.
Okay, good. Good.
I'm actually going to be having a conversation with our town council, Janelle Austin, sometime this week, just to talk about logistics as far as legal being present at the meeting and things like that. So I'll give her an update.
And they did a lot of that. They had Lauren Goldberg was at the beginning, and she talked a lot about the legalities of can, can't, how, should you. So that part is very thorough. And she's got a big bunch that she didn't even go through because she was time crunched. So all of that material was sent over also.
Okay, good.
I guess I assumed that Margaret or somebody had attended. I'm sorry, I would have sent it over earlier.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. I actually ended up going to the vet that day at the same time. Otherwise, and so I was going to look for it. I was going to look for it afterwards.
Unfortunately, I was detoured too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do I hear a motion on behalf of a definite June 22nd with the June 24th rain date?
So moved.
And seconded.
Okay, we'll take a vote. It's Keefe, aye.
Wysocki, aye.
Stone eye.
And
All right.
through the chair, I think as we get a little closer to town meeting, we'll put out details on what people may be looking for if a rain date is needed. So we'll try to give as much advance notice as possible.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Does this require Barry to assemble the meeting on the 22nd and then move the date to the 24th? Okay.
Yes, he would have to be there to recess and set the schedule the rain date or call the rain date.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And now on to the reappointment of Dennis Fearbay as the treasurer collector, retroactive June 1st, 2020 through May 31st, 2021.
So moved.
And seconded.
And we'll take a vote. Keefe, aye.
Waisaki, aye.
Stone Eye.
Okay, great. Motion passes. Moving on to new business, we're going to talk about the COVID-19 Order 35 and ABCC regulations, the temporary premises extensions. I'm going to let Margaret talk to us about this. Here we go again, huh, Margaret?
Yeah, they're just rolling out these orders. So I had put a recommendation in your folder last week that you've probably all reviewed. And today I got a pretty comprehensive set of policies, procedures, and rules that effectively say the same thing. I got it directly from KP. So, and on my recommendation, Janelle had only made one small recommended change, I believe. So I'll leave it to the board as to what to approve for the policies and procedures for these temporary outdoor space extensions. But effectively, they say the same thing. So the order and the ABC's advisory creates an expedited process for allowing restaurant establishments, whether or not serving alcohol, but the ABCC does control the alcohol piece, to extend their outdoor seating in order to, promote business. And it's done entirely through a local process with notice to ABCC. So this policy and procedure that we're establishing here kind of sets the ground rules for all establishments who are interested in expanding. And we have gotten a request from one of our restaurants. It's probably going to be coming to the board as early as next week. And there might be another one as well. So I want to ask the board to put these procedures and rules in place. You may as well go with the ones that you're most familiar with, the ones that have been in your folder, and use KPs to refer to as we move forward because they're not contradictory. So I would ask for the board's support and approve the recommendation for temporary premises extensions for outdoor seating per COVID-19 order number 35 in the ABCC advisory.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
You do, and seconded.
Okay. Questions, comments for Margaret? I think I had a chance to read both, and whichever one you prefer.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll take a vote. Keith, aye.
Waisaki, aye.
Stone Eye.
Okay, motion passes. We're moving on
Thank you. We've got something in place.
with our recommendations and temporary premises extensions now, huh?
Yes, how do you like that?
Yes, finally. Huh?
I don't know what's next. We'll find out.
Yeah. All right. Now, would you like to discuss with us the reopening of the municipal buildings?
Yes, and this will be a very, very preliminary introduction. I am going to be meeting with our building directors after our department heads meeting tomorrow, just to talk about the reopening of the various town buildings. Town buildings are going to be treated somewhat differently. For example, the reopening of the highway department is going to look different than the reopening of the town offices or the library or the 1870 town hall. But I've put together, and I did use another towns as a template, but I did put together a 9-page comprehensive set of protocols for employee return to work, reopening protocols. And as it stands at the moment with these very preliminary drafts, I'm looking at the possible date of Monday, June 29th for employees to be able to return to work, the work from home employees being able to return to work for their scheduled shifts. But on their return to work, the building would still be closed to the public in order to provide all the education and training that we're going to need to have in place for all of our employees when we, in preparation for the public reopening. So that would last, according to this very preliminary set of protocols, that would last for a full week so that employees could acclimate, they could get, they could receive the training needed, questions could be asked and answered. And then I'm looking at a possible opening of the town offices by appointment only on July 6th, Monday, July 6th. And I would expect that that would last a couple of weeks so that we could control the flow of foot traffic in the building. Our offices are limited to 25% occupancy in any one of the offices. So we have to be very careful about that. We have to be sure that we are on top of cleaning and disinfecting. That's going to have to be a regular thing according to the state regulations. And so I'm introducing this to the board tonight for you to at least review as a preliminary set of protocols. And I'll bring more next week after building directors have a chance to chat this week about the protocols.
I just have one quick question. June 29th is election day. And while we've encouraged everybody to come in and vote, I think you're probably still going to have quite a few people traipsing in and out of the building.
Yeah, Chief Galvin has already kind of established a plan or something that he's going to use to make sure that voters that are coming in and out of the building are going to stay in one area and they're going to follow a traffic flow, so they won't be coming up.
So they won't be popping upstairs to see what's going on. Okay, excellent.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see people.
Oh,
coming.
sure. I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame them, but we do have to be careful.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All right, is it the pleasure of the board to take a vote, or are we just going to wait until the next meeting?
I think Margaret asked us to wait till next meeting. Yes? No?
I don't know. Yeah, it's so much to sort through at the moment. Feel free to look through it and send me your comments.
Okay, great. All right, and would you like to discuss with us the Council on Aging Director pay rate?
Yes, I've submitted a recommendation to the board tonight that the Council on Aging Director be approved for a starting hourly rate of $25.12. That's at the current grade 7, but at a step 7. With the difference between the FY21 appropriation and actual annualized wages being paid from the FY21 contingency line that's been set up in part for this type of situation. And this would be contingent or subject to town meeting approval of the budget. So the difference between the starting rate on that grade and the rate that I'm proposing, the $25.12, the difference on an annual basis would be $3,184. And the reason I've made this recommendation, you'll see that our HR consultant has been able to provide an analysis of the wages as they compare to other comparable towns. The hourly rate that I am proposing, $25.12, isn't quite at the median of comparable towns, but it's getting a little closer, and I think it's more acceptable for the position. The $21.98 the position would have started at is well below even the 10th percentile. So it's putting the position in a good starting ballpark.
Okay, questions, comments, motions?
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
Okay, then we'll take a vote. Keefe, aye.
Wasaki, aye.
Stone eye.
Okay, thank you. I think good, at least median pay is going to keep good people.
And that's how we get good candidates when we're hiring also.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Board questions and comments. Can I ask one? So the annual town election is on June 29th, and we usually have a selectmen's meeting. Does the board want to have a meeting on the 29th? I know that would generally be Lisa's last meeting. I just wanted to know whether you wanted to continue that, or if you wanted to, I don't know, Margaret, did you have anything to add to this
In
too?
my prior towns, the only reason I asked this question this morning, but in my prior towns, there was kind of a rule that there weren't meetings on election days, and that's the only reason I asked it.
Well, because we have such a process for voting, usually they don't, I don't know about this election, but usually they don't have the results until close to 11 o'clock at night. So it doesn't usually interfere with a meeting. But I want to throw this out there to Peg and Lisa.
I think just in general, I think that we don't really set a good precedent by having meetings on election day, because frankly, I'm in the camp where I think election day ought to be a holiday, but that's just a personal thing. It's not, I mean, if it's a tradition here, then so be it. It's just, I think that it should be a holiday for everyone.
Okay, Peg?
Well, let's make it a new tradition, and let's not have meetings on election day.
Okay, so be it. Do you need a vote, Margaret?
You had voted the calendar previously, right? So I would say yes, please.
Okay, yeah, it was going to be, it was in the FY20 calendar, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So motion to approve?
So moved.
And
Okay.
seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Keefe, aye.
Osaki, aye.
Stone eye.
All right. And other board questions or comments? Look at that big smile. Go on, go, girl.
Just two, and I'll keep it quick. So coffee talk, Mark, we're all set for that. I know notices have gone out. I've pushed it out on Berlin Neighbors Connect as well as Berlin Residents United. You'll kick things off and then just pull in people I invited Chief Galvin. I think right
Yes.
now it's a good time for him, considering what's going on in the world, especially in the United States with all the unrest for the protests that are going on, that he come talk to the town about the preparedness of the police and what they're doing. And on the flip side, for us to ask him, what can we do as a town to ensure that the police know that they have our support, that we have their back as well. All right.
It's a
so
very
that's-
relevant discussion. That's a good add.
Okay. All right. I'll
Adding
push.
agenda? Are we adding him to the bottom of the agenda, or do you have a?
I'll ask Mary, would you please add Chief? I don't know where he'll be, but if you could add him to the agenda and just let him know, that'd be great.
Okay.
I feel by suggesting and putting it at the beginning or the end, it's suggesting that order for the public even. Do you want to say where you want that to be? Or do you want me to ask Chief Galvin his availability, or?
I think Chief plans on being there.
Correct.
John Annie is scheduled for right at the start. So it would have to be-
Conservation's at the start, then septic, and then annual town report and annual town meeting and election. So where do you want to put this?
Maybe right after the library.
I'm just curious. This is a really sizable topic. I'm not sure we should try to fit this into a 10 or 15-minute discussion. It seems like if you're going to have the discussion, it might be a bigger discussion than just cramming it into a small slot. But
yeah, through the chair, just to have this discussion, how about adding Chief right after the annual town meeting? I mean, we've been through the warrant, and we can just briefly talk about the plans for outdoor, and then have Chief go into the discussion and be able to close out the night with that topic.
Yeah, and if they have more questions, I'm sure he would really appreciate them contacting him too. With any questions.
In the news business, we call that burying the lead. Like it's just so deep into the meeting that you don't have everyone there for the announcement. versus him saying something briefly at the outset that he's going to have a separate forum might be planned or something. I don't know that it is, but if you're not going to do it in full that night, then do you want to, could he announce a date? Can he figure out a date that he might want to, is he ready for that, Margaret?
Well, let me explain my intent, is that as Barry let us off last week at the pre-town meeting, kind of with a moment of silence, for everything that's going on, that it prompted me to reach out to Chief and say, and sorry for the train that's like whizzing through in the background, what's the town doing? Because I have had a couple people reach out. In fact, the person who generously gave us the sign for the essential workers reached back out and said, hey, what can we do to support our police? I said, that's a great question. I don't know. So I reached out to Chief and I asked him what they were doing. I'm not looking for, Chief to go on a 20-minute diatribe on, what's going on and his personal thoughts, but more so, hey, if you people are wondering, given that Berlin truly is really not a diverse town, considering our makeup, and there's been many questions on Facebook Connect, people asking about where they can go for rallies. Berlin has never been one. Clinton, I think, had a couple, Marlboro, Leominster.
Pretty much every surrounding community except us.
Right. So, given that people are asking, I felt that we had an obligation to bring Chief up, just to say, in case you're wondering, here's some of the training that our officers go through. They go through it on a yearly basis. They go through it on a quarterly basis or whatever it is. I think just to let the folks in town know that, God forbid anything happen in town or anything happen in a neighboring town, and our officers have to go to help, that they know what to do. Of course, there's an assumption, but if you've watched the news, I think assumptions go right out the window as to what should happen versus what does happen. So if anything, it's more of an FYI. I think if it starts to derail, Margaret probably, again, as, token volunteer, voluntold person who can help to run the coffee talk, that we shut it down and, slide people off and maybe have another forum. That's great. But I think it would be a great disservice if we just passed over police right now with everything that's going on.
I think I would also once again encourage that maybe an announcement of an additional forum might be more appropriate, but that's once again just my feeling on that, and that would be something also to pass by Chief Galvin and see what his thoughts are on it. But I do think this is a large topic, and you have a lot of things swirling right now.
Why don't we either Peg or Margaret can talk to Chief Galvin and tell him the situation and see what he thinks.
I'll reach out. I started it with him, and I asked him, and copied in Margaret, so I'll just circle back with him and follow up and get something back out to everybody before Thursday, so we're all in the know.
Okay, that sounds good. Was that your second question?
That was one.
Okay.
It was this long, but that was one.
Okay.
Christine, you know better than that. So my favorite topic, the town reports. Yes, they're online, but where are the hard copies? When can we expect them? And is it 5 days that they need to get mailed, or is it 5 days before town meeting that they need to be in hand?
Mailed.
Cause to be delivered.
What does that mean?
We're mailing it. We're mailing it. Excuse me for interrupting. We're going to be mailing it.
When?
Did you label it yet?
And I see Barry's still out there. Lisa, do you have a time?
I haven't heard anything, but what is the date today? I suspect we should have it by he was going to try for the 11th, wasn't he?
Oh, I insisted that it be done by the 11th.
So I suspect.
I insisted that it
We
be done
have
by
Trying
the
for
11th.
that date.
Barry, you're there.
Barry? You have an update for us?
I have no information on that. I know that somebody talked about getting them on the 16th, and I had understood that Margaret talked to him and said, "Oh no, 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 we're not
That's right.
right on the edge again." And at the time that I originally spoke to him about whether they were open and printing back in March or the 1st of April, he said he said, give them 10 days. So I thought our last date to get it to them was like the 1st of June, and we'd have it out by the 11th. And instead, we got it there a week earlier than that. And then we started hearing talk about the 16th, and I thought, this is ridiculous. So the last that I heard, Margaret, you had talked to him and said, no, we've got to have it before that. And you were pushing for it for the 11th. Is that correct?
That's correct. Absolutely. And I can follow up with, I have the contact for that printer, and I can follow up tomorrow if you'd like, which
Yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly willing to contact him too, but that was the last that I'd heard about it. And I thought I wouldn't wade into it where you just talked to him, so.
He's super responsive, Margaret.
Okay.
All right, so Margaret, questions, then follow-up questions for you. So Chris, this is like 2A, B, C, D, and E.
Well, wait a minute. Should I call on Janet? She's got her hand up.
Oh, yeah, call on Janet first.
All right. Can you put Janet
I'm
forward?
working on it. Give me a second. Yep, here she comes. She still remember her question. She's been there for a while.
Hi.
She's like me. She probably forgot it.
Go ahead, Janet.
Can you see me? Hi.
There you are.
So actually, it's kind of funny because my comment actually had to do with the first thing, which was about the Chief Galvin coming to speak at Coffee Talk about racism, which is, really what it's all about, which nobody mentioned that. But I do think it's important that that gets brought up at Coffee Talk. And maybe you're right, absolutely, Lisa. It's a bigger topic than Coffee Talk. But I think the mention of it to then maybe open up the conversation to a later forum might be a nice way to go, because I definitely think that that's not enough time, but I do think it's a topic that needs to be discussed, because we are one of the few surrounding towns that have done nothing, and it is a very important topic. In 58 years in Berlin, we probably can count on two hands how many people of color lived in our time is from kindergarten to graduating from high school. And we have always been a very open and receptive town, but I do think the topic is very important. So that's my first thing. My second thing is I really do agree with Barry that they need to be out, because in past, we get the annual report, you have a question or a concern, and you don't have enough days to even go to the person to ask the question or concern. And for those of us that have lived in town, we can just go down and knock on Barry's door. But for those people that may not know that, it's difficult for those people to get a town report on maybe a Friday and have the weekend, and then Monday is town meeting. So I'm totally in agreement with Barry and Margaret that they do need to be out so that people have a week in advance before town meeting to come up with questions and concerns and go to the appropriate people to ask those questions and concerns. So it was more of a comment than a question. Thank you for hearing me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Janet. All right.
They also still need to be stickered.
That was going to be my 2A, B, C, and D, is that, and I'm looking at a calendar. So let's say, Margaret, they arrive to the town offices on Thursday, the 11th. So are the stickers already done? Do we know who's taking boxes? Do we know what the process is to take the box, take it, sticker it, bring it back? Is Mr. Ager going to play mailman and bring them down bring them down the post office so they all have to be accounted for? So that's my 2 A, B, C, D, and E questions.
When we get it, we'll get them stickered and we'll get them in the mail. We have done that in as little, last year we did it in about an hour, but Most years we do the stickers in an hour, and the total time is about 2 hours from the time I get the book to the time that it actually goes to the post office.
That's with
Now,
a dozen people and no
are
printed restrictions, though.
up against a little bit of an issue with COVID-19 and where we can do it and how we can get it accomplished. But I'm working on some possibilities in that regard, and we are going to try. We certainly will have it in the mail within 24 hours of the time we get the book.
So Barry,
I
do you
no
know,
reason that won't work fine.
do you know, just offhand, like rough guesstimate, how many books equal, what'd you print, 1,300? How many boxes 1,300 is?
Each
Ish.
time we get the book, it comes packed in boxes, and there'll be a number of books in each box. But that doesn't mean that if you got 16 books last year in a box that you'll get 16 this year. It may be 24 this year.
Okay.
So until they actually get delivered to us, we won't know how many are in the box.
All
But
right.
I've already spoken to the town clerk that because of the issues about COVID-19, we really need to get the stickers printed sooner. And she and I need to go through and do some sorting ahead of time so that we can figure out how many stickers and so forth to hand somebody to work on. We're working on organizing that as we always have, and a little bit differently this year because of the COVID-19 issues and getting it done. But I have little doubt that we can do it efficiently. The other thing is that her state computer was changed today, or was to be changed today. And so she's not in a position to just print them out tomorrow. She's got to give a little time for that system to be settled down and make sure the new one's working right and everything. But we will print them prior to the time that we get the town report so that we're ready to do the job.
Okay. All right, so then I'm gonna guess that Friday, June 12th is now stickering day. So however many, Barry, I don't know how many folks you have lined up to do the actual stickers, but put me down for as many boxes as you need stickered, and I'll come down and throw them in the back of the car, bring them home, and then bring them back down to wherever they need to go.
We will keep you in mind as one of the people that would like to help.
Yeah, it would be my strong recommendation that these don't leave the town offices, though. It really would, because you don't want these and stickers and everything going every which where. If you want to put them in a room separately and have people do them separately, that's fine, but I would not be distributing boxes every which where.
Margaret, what about, how's that going to work with the building? I mean, the building's open, obviously we can all get in. We can all wave our little key fobby and we can stroll through the door and go up the stairs, but how is that going to work with population in the building?
We're going to work on this as much as possible, utilizing people who are in the building regularly anyway.
Okay.
So that we will not be bringing in very many people from outside. And given the situation, I'm going to try to get some of the employees that are there anyway to spend an hour doing this to help us.
Yes.
And I think that we'll be able to make it all work out fine. But I have to work that out with Margaret and perhaps some other people that are there regularly. And we'll give us the chance to just do it. We know how to do it.
Okay, Margaret?
Through the chair, I, for one, have blocked out Friday, the 12th to sticker. I'll be stickering on June 12th. June 12th is stickering day.
Stickering day. All right.
Honestly, she wouldn't be happy, but with that much time, she could probably do it herself.
So,
I don't know, I might like that as a little bit of a break.
well, you can add my name to the list too if you need any more help.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, that's all I had on town reports and coffee talk and Chief Galvin. All right, I'm done.
Okay. Did think of one thing I wanted to ask is how did the technology meeting go with 64 Banner Road? Did that go well?
I mean, I was on it. I kind of like snuck in. It was fine. A lot of the questions that we have, the gal that they had, I can't remember her name, was
Melissa.
There you go. Was on the spot. She knew all the answers. She changed things around. She showed that it's capable of holding 500 people. One of the gentlemen tried the call-in number for the meeting, pretending that he didn't have a laptop. He came right in, we could hear him. So they're really weren't any glitches that I could find that would cause a bump in the road.
Good. Margaret?
I agree with Peg. We all had our checklists in front of us because we had put that together to make sure that all the points that we had put together on our policies, and we wanted to make sure that the CCC's regulations were addressed. So yes, it's going to be important. I'm going to be the moderator for the meeting, and mostly to try to keep the discussion on track, not on the merits of whether or not marijuana should be legal, but on the things that have to be addressed in the community outreach meeting. So I think that we're ready. Hopefully they're ready.
Okay, good. Glad to hear it went well.
Yep.
All right, we do not have need for an executive session, so I would take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And seconded.
Keith, aye.
Waisaki, aye.
Stone Eye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank